Whenever you learn a programming language, you're going to need to know how to get to the documentation for the language. I won't be able to tell you all the details of Visual Basic in this course, and so you'll always need to be able to get to more information. Here are some tips about navigating the documentation and help resources that are available with Visual Studio. By default, your help resources are online, and so to get to them while you're doing your development work, you'll need an internet connection. To get to the primary help resources, go to the menu and choose Help, View Help. That will open a browser and take you to the documentation for Visual Studio 2012. If you're looking for language documentation, click on Visual Basic and Visual C#, and then from there on Visual Basic. From here, you can find conceptual information and the complete API reference for Visual Basic and for the .NET or WinRT libraries. You can also get to context-sensitive help for particular language elements. For example, let's say you wanted to learn about the class statement. This is how you define a software class in Visual Basic. To get to the documentation for this keyword, double-click on the keyword to select it, then press F1. That will open the documentation online, and you can read the conceptual information and take a look at the structure of the command and sometimes some sample code. Here's another example. Let's say you wanted to learn about the dim statement, the keyword that declares a variable. I'll double-click and press F1 again, and that takes me to the documentation for dim. You can also use context-sensitive help with XAML. I'll go to my XAML file in my CodeRunner application, and I'll double-click on the label element and press F1, and that takes me to all the information I need about the label class. If you prefer, you can download documentation and use it locally. To do this, go to the menu and choose Help, Add and Remove Help Content. That opens an application called Help Viewer. From here, you can select one or more documents that you want to download and use locally. I'll click the Add link for Visual Basic and Visual C#, and I see a status of Add pending. Now, to actually download that documentation, I'll click the Update button. If you see a User Account Control dialog box at this point, click Yes. It won't always show up. But once you've gotten to this point, you'll be downloading the documentation that you selected, it'll be merged into your local documentation, and it'll be ready to use. Then, to change the way Visual Studio behaves when you ask for help, go to the menu and choose Help, Set Help Preference, Launch in Help Viewer. Now to test that, I'll go back to my VB window. I'll once again double-click to select the dim keyword, and I'll press F1. And now the local documentation opens in Help Viewer. So if you're going on a trip, you're not going to have an internet connection, but you still want to keep on programming, prepare ahead of time. Download the documentation that you'll need, change your options, and you'll be able to get to all the information you need when you need it. For the purpose of this course, I'll be using the online help, but both of these documentation sets have the same information and can help you as you learn Visual Basic.